Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Mommy Guide Inc. Yes, so for those who are new to the channel, I am Mommy Lala. Yes, we are actually on day number, I forgot if it's 8 or 9, although it's the 11th, because I think, skipped 2 days. I still went live, but I actually didn't do craft every day yesterday. So I was with Jay on Sunday, and then earlier today I did what do you call this? Candace Card Challenge live stream hop. So I was in that hop. So again, this is our episode for today. Is going to focus on stamping, right? So the whole series for Craft Every Day in August, or CEDA, okay, is all about the basics of crafting, specifically paper crafting. So if you are jumping in right now for the first time, you may want to go back to the playlist and join us from day one on replay. So again, we are going to be focusing on one of the most awesome what do you call this, techniques or products that actually has been invented or being used for paper crafting. So used to be all you can do with paper is to cut it, fold it, stuff like that, right? But then now you have stencils, you have stamps, and then you have other things that you can add on to your paper projects. All right. So without further ado, let's head on to our topic for today, which is the basic of stamping. All right. So we did the other day, it was stencils. Now it is stamping. Okay, so a brief history of stamping. Ancient roots, yes. Earliest stamps were seals used in Mesopotamia and China. That's about over 2,000 years ago, right? So, so modern crafting right now, or a few decades ago. So rubber stamping became popular in the 1970s as part of the scrapbooking boom. Okay, so I think I hopped onto that quite late already. I think it was pretty late in the 90s already, right? So for me, the first time I was introduced to stamping indeed was in rubber stamping. But it was nice every time I would see samples of what they create, but actually doing it was something that I struggled with, and I'll show you and I'll tell you more about that later. So today, it now has become a staple in card making, journaling, DIY tags, planners, and mixed media art. Right? So now it is used by not just paper crafters, but so many other crafty and artsy avenues as well. All right. So let's start with the different types of stamps. Okay. So again, when I started, the kind of stamps that I actually started with were rubber stamps, the red or the gray rubber stamps, right? So they're very traditional and very durable. But just like anything else, they don't really, they could last a lot of years, but I don't think they last forever, right? Especially if the way that you store them is not proper. So it's often mounted on wood or cling foam blocks. Okay, so let me show that to you right now. So this is so let's let go of this for a while. I just show that for the countdown. So this is what a red rubber stamp look like. Okay, so it comes in actually different sizes. There are smaller ones, big ones. Okay, and these are from Penny Black. Yes, these are from Penny Black. Okay, so if you would see, so there is that big block of wood. Okay, and that is somehow, so this is where you actually hold it. And some of them have ridges like that, so it's easier to actually hold, right? So it prevents it from slipping because of, that ridge over there. Easier to hold. A little bit more ergonomic. And if you can see, this is what we call the red rubber stamp. So the images are actually etched on a red rubber. And in between the wood and the block, okay, I mean the wood block and the red rubber, or sometimes this is gray rubber, you would see that there is a sturdy foam in between. Okay, and that helps out in actually coming up with more crisp images because there's a little bit of a give, right? So that's why instead of just directly on the hardwood, okay, there is a bit of a sturdy foam. All right, so that is what a wooden block stamp would look like. So there are smaller versions of that, like this one. These are from Hero Arts. Okay, so I used to buy, they used to release this in like tubs, like seasons, sentiments, stuff like that. So, and then there were individuals as well. So you can see, very much well loved. Stained, but it is okay. All right, so that is the red rubber stamps or the wooden stamps. And we have Wims in the chat. Good evening, Wims. Are you still at work? You're early. All right, so there you go. So again, often mounted on wood or cling foam blocks. All right, so next. Okay, next is now finally the advent of photopolymer stamps. Okay, the thing with this rubber stamps, my friends, is they're very sturdy, they're very nice, right? But the thing is, it's kind of hard to store them. They eat up a lot of space. So the way I store this kinds of stamps is, you know, those spice racks where you actually have something like it's ladder like. So it goes like this, like that. So it's like ladder, and then you can put, you know, all your spices and other condiments on those racks. So that's how I store them. There's one that you can actually elongate. Okay, so you can pull it, push it to make it longer, shorter, right? So that one is the one I use. If you want to check out or see what that looks like, I have several videos in my channel for my craft room tour, and you will see a part of that where I actually store this rubber stamps. Now, with the advent of clear photopolymer stamps, okay, so storage became easier, and it is actually less expensive as well, right? And easier to carry, easier to store. So a lot of people, it's like, you know, finally was able to, you know, start out with stamping. Okay, because it's cheaper, easier to store, more designs, right? So, oops. Okay, so again, it's see-through for your easy placement as well, but it does require an acrylic block. Okay, so unlike this ones, okay, so the wooden blocks, okay, with the red rubber stamps, okay, so the holder of the stamp is already attached to, okay, the stamp. Okay, so then the entry of photopolymers, okay, so normally they would come in something like this. All right, hold on, I'll just get. So examples of, yes, photopolymer stamps, okay, so like the ones of Altenew. Hi, Linda. And I'm glad that Wims is also done with dinner. Had to wait for migraine to... Oh my, did my migraine transfer to you, Linda? Sorry about that. Okay, my migraine is better, but my tummy is acting up. I don't know what I ate in the past few days, but every time I eat, I have a tummy ache. So I ate a little bit earlier, but still, I can still feel a little bit of a tummy ache. So I hope I can survive, all right, the rest of the night. Okay, so, and then they also came up with the versions of the rubber stamps that are unmounted. Okay, we call this unmounted. And if you can, I don't know if you can see it, but it's, yes, it's like... glossy, right? Because this one, if you wet this or a little bit, you know, clean it, okay, then it can also stick to a, okay, what do you call this? Stamping block. So this is a stamping block. So for photopolymer, so instead of just the wood blocks and then already attached, okay, so they just released, this kinds of blocks. Actually, before I didn't have any of these before. So the ones I used were actually, do you remember CDs, compact discs? And they have this container for compact discs that are plastic. I used to do that. I used to use that, okay, to attach my photopolymer stamps because I didn't have this just yet. And this, if you can see, comes in different shapes and sizes. So I actually have circular ones. Okay, so there's longer ones, there's square. Those have lines with color, thin ones, thick ones. All right, so there are different kinds. See, it comes in various shapes and sizes. All right, so it even has something like as small as this. All right, so and then in the beginning it was quite expensive, and then eventually it became very, very much affordable. So they also came up with rubber stamps like this, which you can actually, just also cling with backing so that it clings onto the stamping blocks. Now, the thing with stamping blocks that are quite thin, it's harder to hold it rather than ones that have a thicker, or a wider, handle like this one. So again, it is up to you which one you prefer. Of course, the bigger, the thicker, the more expensive it does become. Okay, and remember with the wood blocks, with the wood stamps, okay, so in between, okay, the wood and the red rubber, you have like a foam. Okay, so in lieu of that, since, when you buy the photopolymer stamps, they don't have a backing anymore. So it's just like that. So what you can do is, okay, so if this is your hard surface, okay, yes, to create really crisp images, you need to have a very flat surface and hard surface. And then you put your paper. Where is a paper? Okay, so let's say for the example, this one. Okay, and then, okay, so you put your, okay, for example, this one. Let's just pretend that it is this one. Okay, and then, okay, so instead of just stamping directly from a very hard surface and then just pushing it like so, okay, using something like a foam like this. Okay, if you want me to describe this, you know how like your slippers are, your like beach slippers. Okay, so for here in the Philippines, you call it chinelas, right? So you can put that underneath, okay, and then put your paper on top, and then that's how you stamp. So this will give your image, a little bit, when you press there, it's gonna give it a little bit of a give, which makes it a little, crisper. All right, so that is how these stamping blocks actually are used, okay? And then from this, what do you call this? Oops, it went forward again. Okay, so from these acrylic blocks, the issue with these acrylic blocks is that, hold on, is that if you are not used to stamping and you are an utter beginner, okay, so what happens is that, okay, you might find it difficult to, hold on, I'm going to get paper. To get, what if you, because it's your first time, you don't really know how to, like stamp properly. Okay, so what you end up doing is you will come up with an image that somehow is one part okay, and then some parts are not crisp, right? So some lines are missing, right? So that was the issue, because if you would, okay, so let's try this one, okay? Okay, so if you will, okay, stamp it. Okay, so this is just a regular pigment ink. Okay, so I'm using most of the time if I want crisp images, and I am not gonna be using what do you call this, Copic. I can use VersaFine, otherwise I won't use that, okay, because it will bleed. Okay, so I will, okay, stamp. All right, so what if that part, See? Okay, so there's a part of the leaf there that somehow is, some lines seem to be missing. Okay, how will I go back? I can re-ink my stamp, but then how will I see where I'm gonna put it down? Because this is not transparent. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, right? So even if I do like that, so it's impossible for you to go over the image again and stamp again. So what you do is you just do another try. Okay, so this is better. Okay, so I'll show you the difference. Okay, so you see the difference? Okay, so this part of the leaf was missing in this one. All right, so also that one. So that's the thing with red rubber. Okay, and finally, to remedy that, okay, oh, don't forget to always clean your stamp. Okay, after, using normally, water-based stamps, just, a baby wipes, you're good to go. All right, so let's put that aside first. So they came up with what we call a stamp positioner. Okay, so a stamp positioner looks like a T ruler, right? There's like that, and then you have a side here, and then the base is an anti-slip foam. All right, so basically this one also comes with something like this. So the other side of this plastic square piece of plastic, this square piece of plastic is rough, a little bit rough. Okay, and the other side is smooth. Okay, so what you'll do is to get your rubber stamp. Okay, say for example, okay, so let's try this one. All right, so this girl. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, I just need a bigger. Where did I put that? Okay, it was just here. Oh, okay. This is a bigger stamp, so I want a bigger, backing. Okay, there you go. All right. So what you're gonna do is to stamp the image of the rubber onto this, on the smooth side. Okay, so use dye inks because dye inks dry fast, right? So the thing is, you don't want to use something that is like pigment because it's super wet, it dries longer, right? So again, I'm just putting ink. Now when you're putting ink, you will know that there is ink already on all the parts of the image because you can see that the ink will somehow glisten, okay, as compared to the one that doesn't have ink yet. All right, so there are different sizes of ink, right? So if you have a bigger image, of course it's easier to ink if you have a bigger stamping pad, but that is also more expensive, right? So it's okay, it takes you just a little bit more to actually ink this one. Okay, and then what do? I will stamp it on to this square thing. Okay, so what I will do is, I'm just putting the paper there so you can see. You put this one, your stamp positioner, okay, and then you align this to the corner. Okay, this one. All right, okay, and this one, the edge of this one aligned to that. All right, make sure that it's absolutely aligned and then stamp. Okay, so this is the thing, guys. You do know I have arthritic hands, right? And most of the time, my hands can no longer give much pressure. All right, and then I will lift it. Okay, so you see, the image ain't crisp. Okay, it's mottled, it's not as, so normally if you don't have the stamp positioner, that's it, no more, right? But since we have a stamp positioner, okay, so you can go back to the image, re-ink your stamp like so, and then you can go back again to the image. So if you do not have a stamp positioner and you still have a lot of wooden blocks, so you can, I'm sure there is a way, all right, that you can simulate this kind of technique with just maybe probably a T ruler. Okay, and any plastic that's a little bit hard. All right. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, at least just make sure that all the parts of the image is there. All right. So, and then, okay, now you get your paper. Okay, so for example, let's get an actual card. All right. So let's say I want this to be my... Let's say I want this to be my card front for an A2 size card. Okay, so I want the image to be in the middle. Let's say you want it there, you want it here, you want it there. So you just put this wherever you want it on your project. Let's say I want the image not dead center, but a little bit to the left. I mean to the right. Okay, so I'll put it there. I will grab my stamp positioner. Okay, put it, make sure that the corner is aligned to it. Okay, and then right angle. Okay, I will now remove this. Okay, now making sure that you don't move that anymore. Okay, I will re-ink. Okay, and then I will just go through the sides, make sure it's aligned to the sides, and I will push. Again, you need to have something like, you know, a stiff foam, not a soft one. Okay, that's not gonna give you a nice impression. All right, so let's, it's actually already beautiful, but let's pretend that it's not. Okay, so let's, oh, this one, the legs aren't really connected. Oh, because here it's really not connected anyways. Okay, so just let's pretend that it's not, you know, completely okay. So I'll go back to my stamp. Okay, and then holding this again, making sure that you don't move that. The minute you move that, you're gonna have ghost prints. All right, and then, all right. The thing with rubber is that even if you press on it a little bit harder, it's not gonna like get squished and what do you call that? Stretch, so that their image would look a little, you know, weird. Okay, so there you go. Now you have your image. Okay, and you were able to stamp again. Okay, now if let's say if it's not still okay, you can stamp again and again. Okay, unlike if you don't have this, prior to the advent of this one, it was really hard to create, you know, get that crisp image. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna try, and then if it doesn't work, you're gonna do it again. So what if that's the only paper that you have left for, let's say you're using a specific color of a paper, right? So don't forget to clean. All right, and then okay, just get a rag, okay, and wipe it dry. So to see, it's clean again, right? As if it's brand new. So that's how you use it. Again, normally packaging materials, for sometimes they have something like this. Don't throw, because to create crisp, you know, images using stamps, unmounted stamps, whether it be red rubber or polymer stamps, this is gonna be our best friend. All right, so that is how it was done. Okay, with the photopolymer stamps, and then, you know, photopolymer was actually even already cheaper than the ones on mounted on wood blocks, right? But then they even came out with the ones that are made of silicone. Okay, they are thinner. The images are not as raised and nice. Sometimes they're uneven, but they're really, really cheap, and most of the time very, very oily. So if you want to, you know, crisp images, easier handling, I suggest that you go for photopolymer stamps, clear stamps. So check, okay, so what is the material made of? Because the photopolymer and the, what do you call this, the silicone looks the same. Okay, I'll show you an example of I am trying to look for one. So look at this one. Okay, so this is an example of a silicone. Do you see that when I removed it from the plastic protector, do you see? That's oil. It's very, very oily. It's very, very thin. Maybe if you have a caliper, you could measure like how thick this one is, right? So compared to like, let's say this one from Artful Angel, right? It's like double the thickness. Okay, look, side by side to the sides, right? And the grooves are, higher, nicer. So that's why photopolymer stamps a little bit more expensive than this kind, but it's easier to work with. But sometimes if there's a design that I really, really like this one, the thing I like about this one is because it's huge, it's big, right? So I don't have a lot with that kind of a wreath that is actually, kind of big. So I that's why I got that. All right. Otherwise, and I can't find something in a photopolymer that is like that. Okay. So let me see. Okay. All right. So let me just go back to the chat before I move forward. All right. So Wims is saying hi to Linda. Okay. I treat it and it resolves, but the aura is pale. True. Sometimes it gets resolved, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how severe the migraine is, right? So I'm happy that you're feeling a little bit better, Linda. All right, and Linda said, acrylic stamping block, rubber are nice and last longer, but the acrylic stamps are popular too. I've had both, but my rubber were permanent. Yes, but in fairness, I actually do have also rubber stamps that have cracked or have powdered. Okay, so both ways they won't last us forever, but proper storage conditions and of course buying really good quality ones is going to be I give you an assurance that it's gonna last longer. Yes, and most of those rubber stamps are permanently mounted on wood and blocks. That's why storage eventually became an issue. So some have created like cabinets, display cabinets, right, from floor to ceiling so that they can arrange it like so. So mine, I don't have that much, but still have. So I think I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, and then they are on spice racks like that. Okay. So when I didn't have stamping block, I used the lids of microwavable food storage. Absolutely. So you can, like in my case, I use CD. All right, because that time it's available everywhere. It's very cheap. It's like 5 pesos, 10 pesos. You can buy the CD case, right? So that is about 10 cents for you guys. So so that you can find like the what is 5 pesos or 10 pesos Philippine money to US, right? So again, anything that somehow is non-porous, okay, so that is actually plastic, although very, very thin. So if you press hard, it might break. So Wim's hack is to actually use those microwavable lids, right? So when you sometimes when you buy cookies or when you buy things from the grocery, right? So they come in that, okay? Or you can buy them like just as containers, and then they have lids. So Wims uses the lids, right? Or used to you just use the lid. Okay, yes, it's clever. Good morning, Yvette. I hope that you have recovered. Yes, because my friends, if you were not able to join Yvette and I and our dear friends for the KCC 19 August live stream hop, yes, you can absolutely watch again, right? So it's now on replay, and I came after Yvette earlier today. So this is my second time live streaming for the day here in the Philippines. But if you're over there, I was there nighttime for you, and now here again for my CEDA. And this is my dear friend Doc. Hello, Doc Shirley Dinky. Yes. And everybody's saying hi to everyone. What is the size of acrylic block that you recommend for a beginner? Okay, great question. The thing, Wims, is that it depends. I really cannot like suggest a specific, definitely not the big ones. All right. So remember in when I was starting, okay, so maybe you can learn from this. When I started, I was thinking it's better to buy the bigger one because if I eventually buy bigger stamps, I actually can use the small stamp and the big stamp, right? What do I mean? Okay, hold on. All right. So these are the acrylic blocks, right? Okay. So you can have one as, as small as this one. Now, if you are a beginner, do you buy the small one, this one, the square one? Do I buy the rectangular one? Or do I buy something like the really, really big ones? Okay, so maybe something like a 6 by 6. Okay, so, whoops. Let's just turn this. I actually have something even bigger because I have like stamps that are like 12 by 12, right? So something like this. So in my mind, I started buying big ones. Okay, but then imagine how will you hold such a big stamp? You need both hands. And when you use both hands, it's actually harder to make precision stamping. So I would rather if you are just starting and probably your stamps would really dictate. So if you're going to be using just very, very tiny stamps, okay, so I suggest that you start with, these kinds of blocks, okay, either the rectangular ones or the square ones. Again, it would depend on what do you want or what do you have already or what do you want to start with. Right? So imagine, so if it's like this, right? So this kind will fit, okay? And also the sentiments, right? So normally you also want sentiments, right? So most of the time, if it's an A2 card, the sentiments more or less would be something like this, right? So if you have this one, it's okay, right? You can do it this way, you can do it that way, it's still okay. So something like this or this. Okay, again, if you are starting and you just, you're not going to buy yet the giant stamps, the bigger stamps. Okay, so most of the time you want to start with, just the things that will fit on an A2 size card first. Okay, or on tags. So you can buy, not the too small. Okay, because if it's too small, then you cannot. Okay, so let's go grab this one. So if it's like this, right? So most of the images, okay, so it won't fit, right? So this could probably just for like small sentiments, right? So again, check what you have. Imagine what are you going to be doing for like the first 6 months or year that you're going to be using, or using stamping. And from there, then get, the appropriate stamping blocks. But hold on just yet. Don't buy just yet. Okay, finish. All right, this one. All right, so again, that is how it started. So acrylic blocks. Okay, and then you have foam stamps. Okay, we're still in the different kinds of stamps. So remember, my friends, foam stamps we've been using since we were kids, since we were in kindergarten. Right? So remember these kinds of stamps? Remember in school? Right? So we are sometimes even bigger. All right? So sometimes they come in like this. Okay? So like that. These are foam. Okay? So the thing with this foam, okay, so they absorb ink. Okay? Because these are porous. This is made of, like a fun foam. So some people actually even create fun foam, some die cuts. Right? And then they just layer to come up with, the thickness that they have, that they want. Okay, so these are look at that. It has turned orange, not even yellow, orange already. This used to be white. All right, so that's how old this is. All right, so it would and it would look something like this. All right, so the nice thing about this is it's easy to clean. It's very, very cheap. You can even make one of your own, right? So mostly for kids who are younger, okay, so this is what we let them use, right? And normally you use acrylic paints, okay, instead of like the inks. Now, if you do want to use ink, okay, I'll show you. Let's not use the bigger ones because it's mostly for really for kids. All right, so I'll show you. Okay, so let's use, okay, where are my other inks? Okay, there you go. All right, so let's use my VersaFine, okay, a pigment ink, okay, because it's juicier. So you have this heart, which has an outline, and this one is solid. Okay, so let's try this one. So just like what you did with, when you're inking your photopolymer or your red rubber. Okay, so you can do it this way. The stamp, you tap on the ink, or the stamp, and then it's the ink that you tap. It doesn't matter. What comes naturally to you, then do it. All right, and then you stamp. Okay, so this is actually a good way to create your own, let's say, background, right? Let's say your own gift wrapper. Okay, then again, some might not be as perfect as the others, right? So this one this one says love. Okay, I probably want to put it like beside this one. Right? So these are, rarely used nowadays, but they actually are, great to be used for background, especially if you have kids and you don't want them to use your specialty stamps and inks. You can start them off with foam stamps. Easy to clean, cheap, okay, and easy to use as well. All right, so just like any of your stamps, clean them immediately. All right, so that the ink doesn't build up. Okay, so normally with this, I just throw them in a bucket with water, and then I just dry it, and it's good to go. All right, so those are your foam stamps. Okay, everybody saying hi to everybody still. Okay, so next one. Okay, next one. Still type of stamps. Now you also have your digital or your printable stamps. So this one though, you need to have a little bit of a learning curve, because if you do not know how to use software, right, maybe Canva or Photoshop or what are the others? Whatever it is that you might use for desktop publishing, right? So there are digital stamps. So you can actually create your own image, design and stuff, and then have it printed. Okay, either you print it at home or you have it printed, let's say, for you guys, where do you guys have your Kinko's? I think I remember I had some when I was in the US. Sometimes I print there, or Staples, or here most of the time. Like in my case, I do have a partner store in my show, so that's Design Plus. So I just give them the image, they print it for me, and then I can, instead of stamping, so I skip the stamping. Okay, I now will proceed to just coloring or fussy cutting. Okay, so there. So from purely manual, now you have even digital stamps, right? All right. So next, okay, so you've seen me use already some of the tools to actually create or use your stamps. So acrylic blocks. I've shown you acrylic blocks. Of course, the inks in the previous episodes as well. I've already showed you the different dye, pigment, hybrid, and archival inks. So if you are new and this is the first time that you're watching this series, yes, please go back on replay. Check out the episode where we talked about all about inks, right? So, and then of course you have a stamp cleaner. Okay, so for the past couple of the things I've been doing anyway for now, you saw that the way I cleaned my stamps was to just grab whatever baby wipe or wet tissue that you have, or even, a piece of rag. Okay. And then just simply clean it. Okay. But sometimes, especially if, you're new to, you really love, let's say, a stamp set, and you don't want it to, you really want it. Can it look like the original one where I don't have like even the what do you call this? The tinge of, the ink on the images. You can, so look, right? So you can try. Okay, so we have different kinds of cleaners for what do you call this, for stamps. But normally this is just the one I use, right? So if you are going to borrow somebody else's stamps, especially photopolymer stamps, make sure that the owner knows that it might get returned to him or her already with a stain. Okay, but remember, stains on stamps does not or do not affect the quality of the images that you're gonna be stamping. So it happens because photopolymer, there are certain inks that really stains. But if you want it to be a little bit more cleaner, so you can use this commercially available stamp cleaner. So this one is really for stays-ons. Okay, so a stays-on is a special ink that I use for non-porous materials like glass, plastic, metals, right? So those one are really, really stubborn. The inks it will really stain. So just take note of that. Okay, don't freak out when you see that your stamps, right? So after using them, it's like, oh no, why? Okay, I can no longer remove the color. Okay, so look, okay. So I added a little bit of stamp cleaner. Okay, so the stubborn inks somehow can still be removed. But then again, as I said, okay, so look at this one. Almost very, very clean already. So this normally has a foam on top. I actually ruined it already. But all you need to do is press, and then this one will go in and it will release, okay, the cleaner, the fluid, okay, that will clean. It doesn't smell. So it's okay, except for this one. This one does have a specific chemical smell. Okay, but it really cleans your stamp. All right, and then after that, okay, I just grab a rag to dry it. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but it's absolutely cleaner, okay, than it was before. And this one, almost perfect. Okay, almost, it looks as if it's brand new. Right? So a stamp cleaner actually really helps. So every now and then, somehow what I call a deeper clean. All right? So if I'm working on a lot of things, I really don't have the time to do that all the time, right? But before, I normally put them back where I store them, permanently until I use them again. I clean them. Something like what I've shown you today. All right? So that is, okay, a stamp chamois. Oh, yes, a stamp chamois, by the way, is something like this. Okay, yeah. So if you can see, okay, so there are no furs, does not, no lint. Okay, so it's perfect. And when you wet it, it's very, very soft. Okay, some people even have like a permanent container. I have mine. I don't know where it is. It normally is, they call it, like Jennifer McGuire calls it, like a salt container that has a door that makes sure that, in my case, I don't leave it there wet. After using, I wash it and then I let it dry. I'm going to use it, I just wet it again. But some, they just like leave it there because sometimes it might smell, right, eventually. And so you also have to open every now and then to prevent it from smelling. Okay. What is a cling stamp? All right. So a cling stamp, I'm sorry, I just saw your question right now. Okay. So a cling stamp is something like this. So a cling stamp is something like this. All right. So it looks like a rubber stamp. Okay, but it's not mounted on wood. but it does have this clingy material. If you can see, it's like very shiny, right? So what normally if it gets dirty or your the oil from your hand, so it's no longer sticky. Okay, so what you do is you just wipe or clean it. Okay, so to remove all the lint, dirt, oil of your hands and stuff. And then, okay, you wipe it dry, just like when you use your stamps. And then, it's clingy again. Okay, and then, you can now put it on a stamping block. And it sticks. That's why it's called a cling stamp. Because you don't need the wood, it will cling onto your non-porous stamp block. There. All right. FedEx skin coats. Yes, there you go. So our friends in North America, in the US, okay, so that's what they call, or that's most of the time where they have theirs. If they want, something that's commercially printed, fast and, nice digital printing. So and I think that's where I also go to when I am there and I need something printed. Thank you, Yvette. All right. And hi, Shay. Shay's the only one who remembers and still call me Jill. Okay, the background behind that is in one of our live streams or one of our crafty episodes. I talked about how I came up with Mommy Guide Inc. And I told them that there was even a name that I had wanted, but somebody actually had grabbed it. You know what that was? That was Jill of all trades, mistress of none. So it's like, that's me, right? So I'm into so many, but I don't think I am a master of anything, right? So somebody already has that name. So from then on, Shay would call me Jill. All right. So maybe you're like, who is Jill? Where's Jill? Right. So she is actually referring to me. All right. And Yvette also says that cling stamps are stamps that cling to stamping blocks. So they are not mounted on wood blocks. All right. Thank you so much, Yvette. And we have Eric. Have fun creating stamps from potatoes. Oh, yes. You can actually do that as well. Right. So, gosh, I forgot the actual thing in plants and vegetables, resin, but there's another one I forgot. Gosh, sorry about that. When I remember later, I will. Okay, so it does make a stain, right? So for our young scientists, if you want to have like a kitchen, science thingy, you can, or art, you can actually use potatoes as well. Oh, I didn't know Eric was actually very crafty as well. Thanks so much, Eric. Oh, now I know. Yes, Wims. All right. Thank you so much, Wims, for your, very nice questions, because those are, I'm sure, if you are a beginner, actually the people in the chat right now are actually no longer beginners, but they are here to actually also share some of the wisdom that they have, gathered through the years. So please feel free to share them, my friends, to hopefully someone, okay, who may see this on replay or just lurking and watching right now. Okay, so if you do have questions, please don't, everybody is, no one, no one is gonna laugh at you or whatever if you feel, oh, this might be a very basic question. No, there is no such thing. Every question here is okay, as long as, please, let us be kind and polite. There you go. All right. So next one. Okay, now, so we talked about, the different kinds of stamps, some of the tools like stamp positioner, stamp cleaners, now a stamping platform. This, for me, was the game changer. So I did, almost a decade or more of, purely scrapbooking. I rarely did cards that time, except, when my friend dear Marian, who actually was, I feel, the very first ones I know of who really makes cards were Marian and Bea at that time. So most of the time it's really scrapbooks. So a lot of people were already incorporating stamps into their scrapbooks, but since I cannot create very crisp images, it's like my layout is almost finished, and then when I put a stamp, to decorate or to add on to it, it ruins my pages. So I said, no, I don't like stamps. until, okay, this thing, the stamping platform came to be. All right, so what is that? So, and of course, because Wims mentioned something about one of not a very not a basic technique, but I will show it later because it was a request from one of our dear friends, Wims, in the chat. Wims, when you hear me say Wims, is whimsical thoughts. Okay, she is actually married. Then I just love calling her Wims. All right, so this is what a stamping platform is. So there's even a bigger one that's 12 by 12 for those who actually work with bigger canvas like scrapbookers and stuff, right? So, but for card makers, you're good to go with this kind, okay? All right, or this one, okay? So this is actually Misty, okay? So this is the very first one that I had. It was very spendy. It is expensive. Up to now, I think this is still the most expensive stamping platform. But nowadays, there's so many brands you can choose from. But still, because they are the original. Okay, so MISTI, Misty, actually stands for the most incredible stamping tool invented. All right, and it is, it was invented by My Sweet Petunia. All right, so that's the name of the company. Okay, so this is what the stamping platform looks like, right? So at the back, you have this. Remember, I told you, stamping is best if you have something like this as a rubber, not very, very squishy, but a little bit firm, but firm enough to, it still put a give. If you will push on it, it will depress a bit, but not too much, which actually is very much needed to create impressions, nice impressions. So if you want to use the back part, that's fine for stamping, but okay, and also nice if you put it on a table, it's non-slip as well. It helps it from slipping. Okay, and if you can see, this one does have a hinge. Okay, and it's like we call the door. So the thing is, it opens up, and you have this transparent acrylic cover or door where it even has like grids. And the grids are actually to help you align your stamps so that you know where you can, put it. Okay. And then at the back, it has this. Okay. Again, it's acrylic, very, very sturdy. And then on its sides are measurements. Okay. So inches. All right, so this is the very first release. They released several versions already, changed it, and then I know that you can even add or buy the ruler you can put on the sides for, I think, the metric, because this is inches, right? So imperial measurement. So, and then, okay, you can actually buy the paper that comes into it so that, okay, so it can help you as well, what do you call that? Position your stamps. So this is what the stamp positioner basically would have. Okay, so this is where I started. Okay, and normally it also comes with this one. So if you want to see the measurements, you can remove that. But then again, I don't like, because this is very hard plastic, and I want my stamps to be really nice and crisp. Okay, so I normally put this one, and I just rely on this one. All right, or you can put, they actually release something like this. Okay, a set of papers that's disposable. All right, so you can just peel one off and then put it on top of this one so that you could still see. All right, so that you can still use that rubber foam mat. Okay, and then this one, because this one is really for the smaller one. Okay, I ran out of the paper for the bigger one, but you can actually buy a refill for it. All right. So, and then I got this one, and then American Crafts, and then We Are Memory Keepers. All the other, brands finally came up with different things. And then one of the things is, normally this you hold your paper. Okay, so later. Let's do this first, okay? So, And then you have this one. This is actually the newest one I have. It doesn't look new, right? It looks, because it's very dirty, right? So this is the stamp wheel. You can no longer even see the name of the stamp wheel. All right, so that's actually the name. You can barely see it says stamp wheel before. And this is from Alden New. And they actually released like double the size of this because they release stamps that are really huge, right? So, but this is basically, instead of a door that has a hinge, this one is, you can actually, remove it. It looks like this. Nice because it's easy to hold, right? So, okay. And then I just added that like faux gem on top so that I know if ever that is always going to be the top or my starting point. So, and then it will fit onto this one, and then you stamp, and then you remove, and then you re-ink, and then you stamp again. So there are now many, but these stamping platforms have really made stamping really fun. Now you can create so many different techniques because of this amazing platform. All right, and then normally, how do you use it? Okay. So you get the paper that you want. Again, stamping also depends a lot about the paper. So not all paper are created equal for stamping, right? So some paper don't hold ink very well. And so like pigment inks, okay, they're kind of wet. They stays on top. So if you have a glossy paper or a paper that's really not meant for stamping, you will always have like an accident, so to speak, right? You may smear it. Okay, so it will have bleeding. It can go through the lines. It's not going to be crisp anymore. So there is a lot of things to consider when it comes to paper. So let's go briefly in the paper. Okay, so for those in the US, I know that you guys use Hammer Mill. And then there's another one. Gosh, Yvette, I forgot. Maybe Yvette can help me out. Oh, she ran. Oh, she already left. Okay, Susan. Hello. The only person I laugh at is me. All right, so, okay, Lurker, who, me? Good morning. Hi, Susan. Good morning. Yes, Yvette, have fun in Aquafit. Anyways, if you can remember, okay, and then this one, okay, of course, our dear Jennifer Maguire, okay, has been, telling us about the Nina Solar White Paper. Okay, and then this Bristol Smooth, okay, Strathmore paper. Okay, so these are the papers that I use. Okay, and of course, the one that I use all the time is a Bevania Splendor Gel. Okay, depends on what I am going to use it for. Is it going to be a card front, card base? So it ranges from 160 GSM to 300 GSM. Right? So this is a specialty paper available here in the Philippines, in Italy, and other parts of the world. Okay, so this is what I use in lieu of the Nina and others because it's what's available here for me anyways. All right. So going back. Okay, so finally, why I said this tool is super amazing, because all you need to do is put the paper you want to put a stamped image on, and then normally there is a magnet. Okay, it's just that I don't know where I placed the magnet because I rarely use magnets anymore, because okay, so normally there is a magnet. You put the magnet to keep the paper in place so it's not gonna move. All right, and then let's go grab an image. Okay, let's go grab a stamp. Okay, just a single image stamp. Okay, where is that? So let's grab the cow, the very cute cow. This polymer stamp is actually from Artful Angel, the Never Change Your Stripes collection. All right. So to put it, okay, so remember your polymer stamps. Okay. So by the way, I use that for wood block stamps? No, only for photopolymer, cling stamps, and silicone. Okay, so you have one where you have the ridges, you have the images, the cut images, and then you have upside where it's flat. All right, so the one that you would, the things, you open the door, okay, and then you determine where you want to put it. Okay, we are not gonna do heat embossing, so you don't need to put an anti-static powder like the one we did for embossing. So that was an episode we had maybe 2 episodes ago, right? So if you want to check that out. Okay, so just regular stamping. So let's say I just want to put my image over here, because so I can still use this for another stamping, right? So normally there would be magnets here. Okay, but okay, let's just pretend. Okay, and then you close the door, you press on it a bit, and then okay, so that's why you want a magnet there to keep the paper in place, right? So since I don't know where I placed it, so let's just pretend that it's there. Okay, hold on, maybe it's here. I don't have extras. Let me check. I should have my extras. Again, I don't know where I placed them. Anyways, okay, just pretend that it's there. All right. Okay, so let us ink, okay, my cow. Okay, so just open the door, stamp on your image. Okay, again, it's easy to know if you've inked everything because it would glisten, and you can see that if there are parts that are not yet inked, it would show. And then the thing is, you just close that like so, and then you put a pressure on it. Okay, like this. Okay, the thing is, again, my hands are quite weak. And sometimes if you rub like this, right, so it's friction, sometimes it can be painful and hot. So what I do is this very, very high-tech tool, It's a whiteboard eraser. It comes in different sizes, shapes, and whatever. I like this one. It's a pencil, right? So I will just go through that. Okay, I'm not doing CPR. All right, I'm just putting pressure going around like so. All right, up and down like that. Okay, putting pressure still, but not too much. Because remember, photopolymer, a little bit sturdier, but let's say you're using silicone, it's gonna stretch. So your image is not gonna be crisp and it's gonna be wonky. Right? So that, and then, all right, so since I don't have a magnet, ta-da! So let's pretend that this wasn't perfect. Okay, so unlike the stamp positioner where you still have to put like a plastic and then a line, so this one, all you need to do is just go back to the image. Okay, and then stamp it again. Okay, but since I don't have a magnet, I feel that is gonna, what do you call this? Do a ghosting. So I just flip. Okay, so if you want to create like, a lot of stamped images, let's say you're gonna make a card for maybe your kids event, okay, and you need maybe 50 of this, right? So it's easy. All right, so you can now just just turn and turn and turn until you you can fill it up with your cows. Right, this is so cute, right? This is from Artful Angel. All right, so and then okay, so that's how we actually use this one. Don't forget to clean. You see, I will just wipe with a baby wipe. So if you have, there are stamps that are very, very cheap, but the quality as well, I cannot vouch for. So if, a stamp is of good quality, most of the time, it's so easy to use. And look at that. It looks like brand new, right? So after okay, doing that, okay, I will just clean this one as well, and then I can store it now. All right, so that is how you use the Misty. Okay, so how about the stamp wheel? Okay, so for the stamp wheel, this actually has a bigger surface area. All right, and instead of a door, it has something like this that you can put on top. Okay, and then instead of just a foam like so, this one has a sticky mat. It's already sticky. Okay, actually waffle flower has this sticky mat that you can use for your Misty. All right, like this one. Okay, so it can be for, okay, an A2 size card, a 5x7, depending on your stamp, positioner. Okay, so you can do like that. So it's gonna look like that. So for A2, okay, and then for a 5x7. Okay, so this one is already sticky. So if you put your paper, it's actually gonna stick. And then it has also, though, because this is black, let's remove this so you can see. There you go. Right, so you can see that this is for, okay, so for the A2. Okay, so for the A2, and it's not gonna move because it has, okay. All right, and then there's the part on the top. I will just remove I just put the protective covering when I'm not using it to protect it so that the stickiness won't be gone. I'll just put it like that. I'll put my card. Okay, so this is for A2, so you can see that it fits perfectly, right? And I don't need to have a magnet because it sticks. Right? So the advent of the sticky mat. So it just gets better and better and better. Right? So, okay, I will just put this back again. All right. Okay. So this one, okay, so it's bigger. And this one, okay, if you can see, this one is flat. This side is flat. This one has like ridges. Okay, and it helps somehow stick it onto that base. Okay, so for it not to like move. All right, and then this is sticky. Okay, so you see that I actually have like, again, this is a photopolymer material. The sticky mat is made of a photopolymer material. And yes, that's the same material they used to create our stamps. Right, so just like your regular stamps, it will stain. Not if, it will. It's just a matter of time, right? But there are several of us like Jay of Craft by Jay. It's like every time he comes up with his stamp wheel, it's like, how is he able to keep that so neat and so clean, right? So mine is, me and Elizabeth, you see, are more or less kind of the same looking, right? It has been stained, but it's very, very well loved. All right. So the thing with this one, it's very similar. All right, so let me just cut this to a smaller size because this one is way too big for that. Where did I put my mini paper trimmer? Oh, there it is. Okay, just a tad smaller. All right. Okay, so let me put it over there. So if you can see, it's it sticks to that, but if you remove it, so it's kind of just tacky, right? So it doesn't destroy your paper. So this is amazing. All right, this got released, I think, 2 to 3 years ago, and now it has an even better version. Okay, so what you do is you put it there, and just unlike the Misty, where you open the door, you stick it here, you choose a place. So this one, instead of grids, they have like rays that go out, and then like lines, so you can still have like a line. And these are actually you can watch my video on this one where I think I did 5 different techniques that you can do with a stamp wheel. So let's say, okay, I want to put, this time around, I want him dead center. Do I want him dead center? Maybe a little bit there because I want to put my sentiments here. Okay, I'm going to put him there. Again, just like before, the flat one will be facing up. Okay, and the one that's really going to stamp is this one. Okay, that faces the paper. Okay, and then to use this, okay, just glide it through. Make sure that you know where your center is. Okay, so you can put a marker, whether it's a tape or like this one, a dot, whatever. Okay, and then lift. Now you have your stamp over there. Okay, and then you just turn it around. And then you can ink it. Okay, so sometimes the door is a little bit, out of the way. Okay, so this one helps. Okay, and then You just lift it, turn it around. Okay, make sure that this two, okay, are the edges. Okay, so not like this, because you might not be able to repeat it because it might move, but you do like that first. Okay, and then you close. All right, and once that's done, okay, and then you just do like this. Okay, and then lift again. Okay, so there are imperfections I can see here and there. All right, so let's try again. Okay. Okay. Hopefully. All right, and then lift. There you go. You're perfect cow. Okay, so that's how the stamp positioner works. So if you want consistency, you don't want to make a mistake, you can still make a mistake. It happens, right? So okay, just the positioner makes it a little bit easier and prevents it from happening. All right, so let's go back to the next slide. All right, so that's the stamping platform. Of course, you have paper or cardstock smooth surface. Yes, if you want the images to be crisp and smooth, you want the paper to be smooth, because if your paper is textured, all right, there's dips and stuff, of course the images somehow will have breaks in it, right? Again, depends on the look that you want. And then of course you have storage folders or bins to store your stamps. I normally put them in plastics to store them and then label them. If you want to see what that looks like, okay, kindly revisit my my craft room tour. Okay, I have maybe almost 8 or 9 videos out there in the playlist because I redo my craft room maybe twice a year. Right, so you will see how I actually store my stamps. Okay, before we proceed, let me just check in the chat. All right. That cow is adorable. Yes, it's from hold on. Yes, Artful Angel. Okay, and that is from the, I think, fairly recent, just a few months ago. Early, I think in the first quarter. Okay, and this one is actually part of, okay, it's covered. I cannot find the other part. So the cow and the zebra, okay, and then the raccoon is actually part of the Never Change. Oh, sorry. I thought you can see it. It's that part of the Never Change Your Stripes. It also includes the sentiment, "See you soon, raccoon. How's it going?" And never change your stripes, right? So I love their sentiments. There's always a happy pun to it, right? So they also have this one, Artful Slow Much. Okay, there's a sloth, right? I love you slow much. Right? So these are really fun stamps from Artful Angel. And then you have Born to Plow. All right, so roll with it, Born to Plow. Okay, and then this one is gardening. So you have images for gardening. And then this one is home is where your gnome is, right? So really, really fun and nice stamps together with awesome sentiments as well. All right, so what is that one? Okay, so maybe from, okay, the material that I used. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think my rag. All right, to dry it. Okay, so it's not lint free. So you do want a chamois that's not gonna give you that. All right, so there you go. Let's go back. Okay, so Wim says, I agree. I can visualize a pink cow because of its cuteness. That would be cute, right? They are adorable. Absolutely, right? So that's one thing about stamps, right? So you know how expensive it is. It's actually really nice. I love ephemeras, but if you keep on buying ephemeras because you use it up, right? So eventually, oh no, there's only one. But with stamps, you can create as many as you want, right? So it is a little bit more expensive than your ephemera, but you know, it can last you a lot, okay, a long time, and you can create as many as you want. You're not limited to let's say an ephemera, because an ephemera, you know, it's gonna, once you use it up, then you have to buy another one. So stamps actually is a great way to create tons of ephemera and focal point for your cards or paper projects. All right, let's go back. Okay, next. Okay, inks. Okay, again, I'm gonna go through this fast because I actually did an episode where I did all of the different kinds of, you know, inks. So again, the dye inks, they're just fast drying, great for stamping outlines. Again, if you're an utter beginner, okay, yes, grab, you know, one or two of the dye inks. I suggest always get a black one, right? So if you just gonna buy one, let it be the black. All right, one dye black ink and one pigment ink. Okay, and of course, the pigment ink is slow drying. Normally, we use for heat embossing, which I already did as well in a different episode. And you have the hybrid inks, and it combines the best of both worlds, right? So you can use that ink for, say, if you, after stamping, as I mentioned, normally if you have stamps like what I showed you, like from Artful Angels, you can color them, right? So you can use different kinds of coloring materials with hybrid inks. You can use alcohol-based inks like Copics, or you can even use your watercolor, or sometimes even your color pencils. Okay, Shay is saying hi to Wims. All right, so all right, they are adorable. Okay, and so next one, of course, you have your solvent inks for the non-porous materials. Okay, so if you want to do something like what Tim Holtz does, right? He stamps, or the makers, so to speak, they could stamp on metal, on clear plastics, right? So you need those specialized inks for that. Now, stamping techniques. Okay, I already showed you the very, very basic, right? So you have your paper, and then you put your stamp, you ink it, and then you put pressure on it, and then you're good to go. All right, so again, ink your stamp, tap, don't squish. Squish meaning it's like you're doing CPR. You know how it is? Like that. All right, so again, and also test your stamp on the scrap paper, especially if you're working on a project and you know, you've never used that stamp yet, and then you've never used that ink yet. So test everything out first on a scratch before you actually put it in your final project, and apply even pressure on the paper. Okay, all right, so now layered stamping. Okay, so this is actually no longer basic. Okay, so layered stamping is a little bit, you know, you need to have used you know, this technique, the basic stamping, quite a bit, so that it's gonna be easier for you to understand. But if your learning curve is very fast, right, so you can absolutely do this. So I will show you in a bit, okay, after this. And of course, so I'm gonna show you first the different ones. Okay, this is no longer basic, this is a little bit advanced. All right, so if you are here on replay or right now watching this, the next steps are or techniques are a little bit harder, okay, but not, you know, impossible to do. It's just not basic anymore. All right, and then you have the masking, where you block parts of your image to build a scene. Let's say, for example, you want, you know, the animals one in front of the other. Okay, if you just simply stamp them, then all the images, it's like all the lines will be on top of each other. So it's not nice, okay? But with masking, you can make them have that look that, oh, one is at the back, one is in front, one is on the side, right? So it looks very, very natural. So that's what we use the masking for. And there are actually different ways of using masking technique, but we're just going to use the very basic masking technique as well. No masking fluids for now. All right. And of course, heat embossing. Okay. So this basically has to do with the ink. So you use pigment ink, whether it's clear. Most of the time I use clear so that I can choose whatever embossing powder I can. Again, I showcase this in length during the embossing episode. Okay, so I will no longer do this one because we did this in the embossing episode. So kindly refer to that one. You can watch on replay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the masking, the layering, and a bonus because Wims asked for it and requested last night, okay, is how do you actually create mirror image? Okay, so mirror image stamping. Okay, so tips and techniques. Okay, so that I'll finish this and then let's go to just the demo. Like I've been saying this, clean your stamps immediately after use. Again, this helps in keeping your stamps, pristine as much as you can, right? Because sometimes if you let the ink stay long, then it can stain. But if you clean it immediately, then it won't stain. But there are those that really just very staining. And again, if your stamps got stained, don't cry. It's okay. It can still be used. But if the stamp that's why I rarely borrow anyone's stamp. Because, it might become the reason for friendship over. Just kidding. Right? So, again, it may stain. Right? And then always test stamps, especially new stamps. Oh, yes. I have to demo that. And store stamps flat or hanging away from sunlight. Yes, this is made of, plastic also, right? Polymer, photopolymer. And it is actually also, can be ruined by heat, by sunlight. Okay, so it can warp, it can lose its suppleness. So keep it away from the direct heat, okay? Let me see what's that. So we're going to go back to the how do you prepare or prep your stamps. There is actually a preparation. Okay, and then use a stamp positioning tool. Okay, like the one I showed you, the stamp wheel or the Misty. Okay, if you can. Okay, there are now a lot of variables or variations of this tool, different manufacturers. Okay, basically the concept is the same. Okay, and then you can combine stamps for more impact. Like let's say your background is stamped and then you can fussy cut another one and make it as your focal point. Okay, so storage solutions. Yes, I actually said this a while ago. Wooden blocks in drawers, pegboards or baskets, in clear plastic, stamp binders or fridge bins. All right, that basically this is how I store mine. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so we will create this later on, but these are suggestions. Okay, so for easy projects, if you actually make any of this, please share. All right, and just do hashtag Mommy Guide Inc., hashtag Craft Everyday in August, so we can see your works as well. Share it on your socials. All right, maybe you would want to create a stamp thank you card. Again, if you want only. All right, and they can do a DIY gift tag. Okay, or you can do something that you can put into your planner, right? And a bookmark. Okay, so again, let's try it together. One layer card using clear stamps, dye ink, and masking. Okay, so we will do that in a bit. So where to buy stamping supplies? Of course, you can buy online. Actually, I have links to some of the products that I actually use. I'm not sure if I already did here, but most of my Craft Everyday in August do have links. And those links, eventually, if you kind of use it, would absolutely help the channel. So keep me or allow me to be able to feature more crafty techniques and products in the future. And of course, these are just some brands that you may want to explore. Not Too Shabby, Altenew, Lawn Fun, Gina K, and yes, of course, the Artful Angel that I actually used earlier. And of course, please support your local small business or favorite online stores. Like if you are in the Philippines, yes, you have Lasting Impression, My Little Attic Studio, right? So yes, or Kara Crafts, right? So PF Crafts. So please do check them out for supplies. All right. So if ever you do have questions, just put them in the chat. And yes, practice, practice, practice. Stamping for me in the beginning was such a frustrating technique and avenue. I actually let it be for several years until, I found the stamping platform, and then, oh my goodness, it not became like a rabbit hole because you can create so many. Remember, this is just the very basic. There are so many amazing techniques and projects that you can do with stamping. So please post your stamp projects, all right, and tag me. Yes, I am actually Mommy Guiding on all the socials. So if you are not yet following me on Instagram, please kindly do so, right? So I am only 400 follows on Instagram, and I don't blame anyone because I rarely post there, but hopefully this year is going to be the year I actually post a lot over there. And of course, I'm also on Facebook and TikTok, and my main platform, YouTube, where I create videos, live streams, as well as shorts or reels. All right, so with that, let's go back to, okay, so this one. All right, so I think we said that I'm going to show you, okay, layering. So let's do the layering first. Okay, so let's just grab this cutesy cow, okay, and put them back together with his friends or her friends. Okay, there you go. Okay, and oh, by the way, I forgot to show you this one. This one is actually a stamp cleaner. Remember, this was a foam, and the thing about this one is if you have like the images, right? So sometimes you cannot clean, or there are stubborn inks that stay in the ridges, all right? So this one has a little bit of a give. So when you do like that, even the inner sides can be cleaned, right? So this is an example of another thing that I use to clean, stubborn inks from my stamps. All right. So there are actually now stamps, of course. The very first stamp company that I actually know of that did layering is Altenew. Okay. So their like Build a Flower series is one of my favorites. Okay. So the thing with layering is, if you are like me, who struggles with coloring, right? So imagine coloring a flower that would look something like this, right? So what the layering stamps does is you can create something like this, colored image already, and it looks layered without actually, having difficulty by doing it. So you can see that it tells you how to use it. Okay, so there's a layering guide. This is actually the very old version. Now there's a better version of how to do it. They actually show you, okay, there are already impressions on the stamp itself, right? So which one is 1, which one is 2, which one is 3. All right, but the thing is, the basics of layering is your very first layer has to be the lightest. Then it becomes darker or darkest. So lightest to darkest. Okay, so that's how you should use your inks, right? And if you want to create something like this, Altenew also came up with, all right, so variations. Okay, so let's say for the blue. Okay, so normally you can buy them in 4s. Okay, but I just removed them from packaging and then put it in. This is how I store my ink cubes. So I start with the Mountain Mist. Okay, and then I'll go with turquoise, and then I go with volcano, or maybe I think I probably have, okay, maybe this one. All right, so let's do it this one. I think I mixed it. All right, so like that. Okay, so you just start with the lightest to the darkest. Okay, so whatever color family it is. Okay, so everything you need, okay, is there. Okay, so that's how you do it. So for the leaves, you start with that, with this, with this. Okay, so I'll show you. Okay, so this is actually the Build a Flower Rose. This is very, very old. I'm not even sure if it's available still because it's very old. All right, so according to the guide, you start out with one that has like a lot of, okay, what do you call this? It's like a big, okay, lots of big coverage. So that's this one. Okay, so this is 50% actual size. All right, so let's start with that one. Okay, so because this is quite big, it's harder to maneuver. So let's go with this one so that it is, smaller. All right, so we'll put it there in the middle. Okay, oh, I forgot my paper. All right, so, oops, I forgot that I still have my protector, so it's not sticky. I do have a sticky mat. All right, okay, and then I'll put in this one. Okay, I want my flower to be there. Okay, and then again, the flat side, the very flat, should be the one that is facing up. Okay, I close it. Okay, and I start with, okay, let's start with, okay, so let's do, instead of pink, the blue. All right, so let's start with this one. Okay, so let's start with the lightest. Okay, so this is the lightest. All right, so let's start. So you'll just follow the guide. Okay, and then I will just do like that. Okay, now if you're not satisfied, you can go back. Okay, again, the nice thing about having a stamp positioner, so if you are going, if you're liking what you see and you think you're going to be doing a lot of stamping in the future, investing in a stamping platform is a very good idea, right? It will save you a lot of time, and you can use it for so many techniques, my friends. All right, so that is what it looks like right now. Okay, and then of course, like what I said, clean as you go. Okay, so before I put that stamp back in, all right, so I will clean. Okay, and then I will put it back here. All right, so I will just dry. Okay, and then I will put back here. Okay, where is that? All right. Okay, and then the next, according to our guide, would be this one. Okay, so which one is that one? Okay, so if I am going to look, okay, that is going to be, okay, look, it has a dark part there. This one, not this. All right, so nowadays, the newer versions, you would know because they actually tell you that this is A or B or 1 or 2. All right, and then look at the guide. Now you ask, so where will I put it? Here? How will I know? Okay, so there is those red lines. Okay, so because the others will not align, but that part is your guide. So look for that part. So this or that part, okay, and that is the one that actually can align to the previous image, right? So in this case, it was this one, okay, and okay, that one, okay, so this part, this and that, so that part, okay, so this and that. So you can look for it until you find the alignment. Okay. Okay. So this. Okay. I'm just making sure that I found it, that I got it. Okay. And then the lower part, this part is going to be aligned with this one. All right. So this one and that one. Okay. So once you're okay, you feel that that is aligned, that one is aligned, then you close the door. Okay, so what ink do I pick up next? Right? So again, I said lighter to darkest. So lighter to darkest. Next one is this color. All right. So I will just lift this up. Okay, ink. Okay, I will ink. Can't see. Okay, maybe Lynn will like this color because it's kind of teal. Right? Okay, and then you just close. Okay. All right. So are you seeing it? Right? So it's becoming, it's no longer like a flat flower. It is starting to have depth and dimension. Right? So there you go. Okay, and finally, the last one is this stamp. Okay, so I need to find the cover for that ink first. Clean up my stamp like so. Okay, and then tap it a bit so it's dry, and then put it back. Okay, so now I'm on to the last part, okay, of this flower. Okay, last part. Okay, and that will be this. Okay, so look. Okay, so this one. Oh, okay. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're on the third. Okay, so we need actually 6. Okay, I don't know if I have enough. Okay, anyway, so for this one, okay, it has to be those blue lines. That's where we should align it. So if this is my image, so this side. So I would have to look, okay, for that part where somehow, okay, it would fit. Okay. All right. So, and then this one would be here. Okay. There you go. Okay. And then I will close, pick up the stamp, move on to my next color. All right. So I'm going to use, okay, because I need 6, right? So let's do this one, and then that, this one, and then that one, and then go to that. All right. Okay. This is going to be very beautiful. Once when I saw Nanette do this, I was like, I fell in love with layering stamps. So I actually have a lot of, layering stamps because of it. All right. So are you seeing how beautiful it is looking right now? Right? And then we're on to our fourth. Okay, so the fourth one would be this one. Okay, and that would be this. Okay, so I just have to remove that. Okay, oh, I forgot. I have to clean this one. Okay, and then return. Okay, and then return to, where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, like so. Okay, so for the next stamp, okay, this one, there's yellow. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay, so this part on the side. Okay, so I have to look for that side. Okay, so this one. Okay, I just have to look for it. Okay. This is I cannot do like that because you will see the top of my head. So this is not gonna be perfect, but it's okay. That's the thing with layering stamps. Okay, is this the one I use? Or is it the other? Okay, so let's just use another one. Oh, this is too dark. Yikes, I think it's okay. Anyways, just pretend it's the right oh, no, 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 no. It's way too different. Okay, can't. It's way too dark. All right, so let's just use this one. All right, okay, I think that's better. Is it the same? Okay, let me see if it's the same. Kinda. All right. All right. Ugh. You have lint. All right. And then what do we have next after that would be okay, the last two pieces, which is actually this one and that one. This and this. Okay. So this one. Okay. So let's close. Okay. And normally they only have like 4, so I'm just okay. Okay, there you go. And then finally, the last stamp. Okay. So that's how this amazing, end. It didn't end there. So from layering stamp, the next thing that Altenew did was the layering dies. And oh my goodness, they were, really a little bit pricey, but it's super worth it. I love, love, love the layering stamps as well. I mean the layering dies. Okay, hold on. It says I have to do like that, guys, because I cannot. All right. Okay, so let's do this in the darkest. Okay, which is this one. Okay. So instead of pink, I did the blue rose. All right, so that is the layering rose, right? So it's beautiful. It looks very realistic. And then all you need now is just a sentiment, right? And you are good to go. Okay, hold on. Let's put this back so I don't, lose it, because I'm known for losing stuff all the time, especially when I'm live streaming. Again, this is the Build a Rose. Yes, indeed, it is a layering stamp set from Altenew. All right. Oop. Okay, there you go. All right. So absolutely, yes. All right. So let me see. Let me just go back to the chat a bit. Sorry, I am not intentionally ignoring you. I just had to focus a bit. All right. So, yes, please don't forget to hit that like button for this live stream. So, what's that stamp again that takes the shape of the object you pressed it on to? Oh, that one is that's it's similar to what Simon Simon Harley has. But I have one that is previous to that. Gosh, I'll get back to you on that, Wims. I actually have a video of that one as well. I think I did that 3-4 years ago. Okay, yes, Shay, goodbye. Thank you so. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see you leave, Shay. Thank you so much. Okay, I need to learn that layered flower. Take care, Wims. Yes, beautiful rose, right? So, and it comes in many different variations. Okay, I want to show you some of them. Okay, of the layering stamps. Let me see. Is it here? Let me see my friends. Okay, hold on. Okay, because I actually love okay, the layering collections. So these are others. Okay, these are not layering though. No, these are not the layering. Where did I put them? Hold on, friends. Okay, so this is the okay. So the build the flower most of the time. So you have this one, right? So this is a carnation. So you can build the carnation, right? So this one is a morning glory, right? So actually this is not complete because I forgot to put the, the leaves. You can add the leaves as well. This is a beautiful day. Okay, so this is another kind of rose. Oh yeah, this is the one that we did. This is hydrangea, and so many others. There's a lot. Okay, that is how I started with layering, stamps. There's also layering dice, right? So we'll get back to that. It's more expensive than layering stamps because dice are metal, right? So it's a little bit more expensive, but you can create like 3D flowers. They're very pretty. I know you've seen me use some of those in the past. All right, so now let's bring in my other stamp. Okay, and let's do okay, this is a requested one from Wims. Okay, and this is what we call your mirror image one. Okay, so where did I put that? I put it here na. Okay. So you can use, okay. All right. So the thing with mirror image, okay. So remember when we're stamping, okay. So when we are stamping, remember I told you what do you call this? The one that you will put ink on has to be the one you first put it on the paper, okay, where you want it to be stamped. Okay, like let's say like that, right? So this one underneath so that when you stamp it, it's gonna give nice give, right? So like that. And then the flat side is on top, right? So this is the normal way. Okay, and then okay, you stamp that. Okay, so this is the regular way of, basic stamping. Okay, just put ink into the stamp, onto the stamp. Okay, so you see, I try not to put ink on the other parts of, but if you do, you can just simply clean that. All right, and then, oh, I forgot, I should teach you or tell you about how do you prime a stamp that is new, okay, or prep for first time use. Oops. Oh no, look at that. See, ugly. All right, and since I don't have, hopefully this is gonna be okay. I don't have a magnet. I'm not sure if it's exactly on the corner. Hopefully this works. All right, that there's no ghosting. Yeah. All right, perfect. Okay, there you go. But okay, what if you want it facing the other way? So going this way. So you want another one that faces this one, so that it's like they're facing each other like that, right? So that's what I mean by a mirror image. So using the same stamp, what you can do is to look for, okay, a stamp, okay, another stamp that has a big surface where your image can fit. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna be using this one. Okay, and then I'm gonna put it on the corner so that I know it's not gonna move, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stamp this one. Okay, I'm gonna stamp it. But instead of stamping it on paper, I'm gonna stamp it onto this other stamp, okay, that is plain and flat. Okay, and I will just stamp it over there. Okay, and open. And I will get myself okay, paper. Like this one's an, okay, I will put it on the corner like so. Okay, and I will just, okay, and then lift. Okay, and you see the image, but it's not crisp. So I'm gonna do it again. Okay, so you just have to do it again and again. Okay, and then grab that. It's getting darker, getting there, some more. All right, so that's how you get the mirror image. Okay, I'll show you how if it's in a stamp wheel, because this one is using Misty. Okay, so again, just check. Okay, look for a stamp, okay, that has a big, flat, no, what do you call that? No ridge, no decoration, no imprint, just flat. Okay, so there you go. Now I have a crisp one. Okay, so let's look at them. Now you have a mirror image. This is the original stamp. This is the mirror image. Right? So you can put it in like one paper only if you want. Okay, but in my case, I will fuzzy cut it. Right? So that's how you can create a mirror image of a stamp. Okay, so let's just clean this. Okay, I'll show you how I clean it. So I said, just grab. Let's get a clean one. Okay, so let's grab our baby wipe. Like so. Okay. So if you can see, okay, it doesn't, don't worry, no worries. Okay, this one. Okay, it's so easy to clean. Okay, different manufacturers, different brands may have different ways of, So when I have I call this like stubborn ink, stubborn stain. So I now get my stamp cleaner. This is when I, so that I don't use up my stamp cleaner, fast. I only use it when I really need like this kinds of, stubborn stains. Okay, otherwise, I normally just use the baby wipe because that is more than enough. Okay, but when I really need to remove stubborn stains like this one, then I use my, there you go. Okay, this is an Ink Essentials Ranger Cleanse It All-Purpose Stamp Cleaner. So you can see, it's perfect now. It's clean, right? So I'll just put that aside. Okay, so the thing is that for that kind of stamp positioner, because it doesn't have like a photopolymer sticky mat, okay, so like this stamp wheel. Okay, so the stamp wheel, as I said, is made of, a stamp material, right? So what you can do is, you can do the same thing, but this time what if you don't have a stamp that has like a wide enough plain part, right? So what if it has decorations, stuff like that? So what you do now is for this one, okay, you will stamp, okay, on the, you will stamp on the, okay, so let's see where I need to put it. Okay, so that's the paper. Okay, so, okay, there you go. All right, so I know that it's there. Okay, so what I will do now is I will ink this. Okay, where's my, okay, so I will ink it. And instead of, you know, using another stamp, I will just use the actual sticky mat. Okay, and then stamp onto the sticky mat. All right, and then grab a paper. Okay, and then get that image, lift there. So you see, definitely you won't get the perfect impression first time. So you need to go over it again and again until you get the, what do you call this? The kind of image that you want. Okay, so this is how you actually get to use your stamping platform to create mirror images. Okay, again, this is not the only thing that you can use your stamp platforms for. There are many other techniques that with the use of a stamp platform and stamps you can create. Okay, and so, you know, getting this as one of your investments is going to be, you know, if there's anything that you need to buy other than the inks, yes, a stamp platform. All right, so there you go. All right, so again, this is the regular stamping. This is the mirror image. This is the mirror image. Right, so this one using another stamp that's blank. This one is just using the sticky mat. Okay, and then just, you know, clean it again. Okay, like what I told you. Okay, so make sure to clean it immediately so that it won't stain. Okay, because my mat is already very stained as it is, right? So I don't want it to, you know, further be stained, so I clean it immediately. All right, so that is it, my dear friends. Okay, basically whatever I showed you tonight, these are just the very basics, and then from this you can, you know, already start stamping and creating, you know, stamp inspired projects, right? Okay. Hi, Amy. Notes from past Amy. Is there a way to make layered design without having so many stamp pads? You can. You will offset, right? So instead of, okay, it's a great question. Let me go back to Amy's question. Okay, so let's use use this one. Okay, again, it's easier with the stamp positioner, my friends. That's why I'm using it. Okay, so this one. Okay, and I'll choose, say, a flower. Okay, maybe you can use the same one. All right, yes, because layering stamps are quite spendy indeed, right? So maybe you can use or get a flower. All right. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's pretend this is actually part of a layering set, but let's pretend that these are two flowers. Okay. Two different stamps, let's pretend. So how can you, Amy's question, create layering effect, okay, without buying, the full set, okay, or without buying a layering stamp. Say just a regular stamp, but come up with something that looks layered. All right. And normally, that is best done with a dark cardstock, okay? Probably I'll do that next. After I finish all the basics, we'll go to a little bit more, advanced. Okay, so that's your first layer, so to speak, right? This one's not so good. So what you can do now is to, of course, it's not as nice as, the way it is done if you actually use the actual, layers. So I didn't build my collection overnight, my friends. So I waited for sale, and then sometimes I would join challenges and I would win, and Wims knows about that, right? So and eventually, I built up my collection. Because I mentioned these are not really cheap. All right? So you can do is, this is it, right? So you can offset a little bit. Okay, so this is the actual image if I stamped it, and what I will do is I will offset a little bit. It's like having like a shadow or a ghost. And I will do the same thing with this one, although this is outlined, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be as nice as, the one that is not just outlined. The only way to check is to do it. All right, stick. I'm looking for a different color ink. Okay, so let's use where's my Altenew? See, that's the thing. All right. All right, let's use this one. Sorry, I think I need to drink. Okay. So as I said, I will just offset. Okay, meaning I moved it a little bit. Okay. Okay, do you see? That's the effect. Right? So I didn't align it exactly. I moved it a little bit. Sorry, friends. Hold on. I need to drink. I think I've been talking for almost 2 hours. So my throat is dry, so I just needed to drink. All right. So as I was saying, this is what a layering flower of a rose would look like with the full die. And this is one that is just a hack. Okay. It still has that kind of, different kind of look. Okay. But still nice. Right? So I hope that helps, Amy. So even if you have only one of anything, and this one actually, if you have, normally I use this offset when I have a dark card, let's say dark blue, dark red, dark green, and then I will offset with white. It's beautiful. It looks 3D. Okay, you can check that out. I think I will try to look for the video where I did that. I think that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So what is that called and where did you buy it? Which one, Wims? The flat plain stamp. Oh, great question. That is a very old stamp, Wims. Okay, hold on. It's here somewhere. I know it's here because I took it from there. Okay, then. It's paper smooches. Okay, so it's paper smooches. Okay, so this is the one. Okay. But promise, if you have, let's say, a big stamp that has a, kind of a flat part where you can, let's say you're just gonna do a very small image, let's say for example of a, it's not too big, so maybe just half of this. So you just need to look for a stamp that has uh flat, big flat surface, maybe just like that. So sometimes you have a big stamp, right? And then there are parts that have nothing, no imprints on that, so you can use that. Or if you can find something like this is from Paper Smooches. All right. Yes, so this is called Paper Smooches mirror blocks. Yes, because really it is used for mirroring technique, so that you don't need to look for a stamp in your stash that has a bigger flat surface. But if you have, then you don't need to actually buy this one, right? But this is from Paper Smooches. I'm not sure if it's still available because this is old. Everything in my stash is old. I think I have not bought anything for over a year now. Right? Because truth be told, if you've been watching my CEDA, I really don't think I need. Okay, I might want some of them because they're gorgeous and pretty and beautiful and fun. But if truth be told, I think I can last me already a lifetime with what I have, and I'm good to go, right? So unless there is really something that I need for a specific project, then I think what I have is already enough, right? So that's why the thing is, when I showcase some of the products, most of them might not be available, but I do try to look for something similar, all right, or an updated version. The gel plate. Gosh, Wims, you're a genius. I believe so. Yes. Okay, guys, do you know what the gel plate is? I will show you. Hold on. Let's just test it. Gosh, I don't know where it is. Oh, I think I used it and it's in the center. So that's the thing when you have two places where you craft. So I don't have my gel plate. So anyway, it's used for monoprinting, right? So a gel plate is like jelly material, which you can use for monoprinting, making prints. That's why it's called monoprinting, because none two are the same. You pull out the image or the color from the plates. Actually, Wims, I think that is very doable. Okay, maybe Wims, try it out and share with us tomorrow. Okay, and I will also try probably in the morning when I go to the office. I will check it out. While offset, okay, white offset is a great idea. Yes, check it out, Amy. I love. But the thing for that to work, you really need to have very dark background. Okay, and then you would see, can you imagine? It's really gonna pop out. It's like 3D. Despite that you just offset. It's not really, you didn't use a lot of stamps, but you just offset. All right. Hi, Susan. Yes. So, yes, you know what? It's easier for me, Susan, because I'm far away. There's the shipping, there's the waiting, right? So, but definitely Advent oh, no, sorry. I think I did buy the Advent calendar series. That's the only thing that I actually bought intentionally, because the others are DT stuff, right? So, but others, it's really the, what do you call that? The Advent calendar series, and of course Lynn's dies. Yes, I actually bought Lynn's dies, of course. FOMO is real for my dear friends' products, right? Yes, thank you so much again, my dear friends. I hope that this is something that is helpful. Okay, so for those who already know about stamping and know all the tips and tricks for stamping, I hope that this comes as just walk down memory lane. And if you are absolutely new to stamping, I hope that this helps you out in your journey, so you don't need to buy all the stamps, all the tools. Okay, so that basically you just need to choose the stamp that you need. Okay, if you can afford the stamp platform, yes, that would be a great investment. Or if not, you can always just start out with a stamping block, right? And then of course inks. You start out with a black one, right? And then try it out for size first, and if you enjoy it, then you consider buying the others, right? So build up a collection again, if you can afford it and you have the storage, and if you want. But then again, as I mentioned, you don't need to. Okay, because remember, all these things, they do have storage life, right? So they won't last forever, right? So if you're not gonna use it anyway, so don't buy. All right, be smart. Whatever mistakes I made along the way, okay, I hope that my sharing helps you out, so that you don't spend unnecessary for things that you might not yet need, okay, or you might never actually need or use. Yes, but the advent calendar is a gift to yourself. Oh, I love it, Susan. It's like as is something that, it's a gift. Okay, correct. So, did I still pass the no buy? How about Lynn's dice? Okay, and Lynn's stuff is a request. Wow, I love it, Susan. So, I still officially went through a no buy more than a year. Thank you so much, Susan. I love that. All right, my dear friends, thank you so much. So again, if you are new to the channel, okay, I hope that you would consider subscribing. Yes, and please don't forget to hit that like button. Okay, and of course, the notification bell, so you always get notified when I go live or upload videos or shorts, as I am on the other side of the globe, right? And of course, please don't forget to share, especially to friends who might not be, who might not have jumped yet onto this awesome passion and craft that we love so much. All right, so with that, thank you so much again, my dear friends. See you again tomorrow for another crafty basics here on my series of CEDA, Craft Every Day in August. With that, have a great rest of the day, my friends. See you again tomorrow. And to those who are in the Philippines, good night. Bye. Oh, Jenna and Dawn is here. Woohoo! Sorry, friends. I'm done. See you again tomorrow. Bye.